What a nightmare. For a second, I thought I was going out of my mind.
Don't worry, Peter, you're not going crazy, you just have a really damn good fashion sense. But anyways, welcome back, true believers and all you spectacular Spidey fans, to another very exciting Marvel Spider-Man 2 related video, where in this particular video, we are going to have a straight up fashion show. But this time around, we are going to sway more towards the darker side of things, as my buddy Ronny Pugs and I are going to fully break down the top 10 black suits we believe need to be featured in Marvel Spider-Man 2. Now, if you guys don't already follow Ronny Pugs, I highly suggest you do, because not only has he been a fully active member within the Spidey Squad community ever since its inception back in 2016, but he also does a plethora of amazing videos over on his channel talking about Marvel Spider-Man and a bunch of other Marvel topics that I'm sure that you will thoroughly enjoy. So definitely be sure to support Ronny as much as you can, and I will leave all the links to his socials in the description below. And since Ronny is a massive Spidey fanatic like myself, we have banded together to create our own separate top 5 list of the black suits that we want to see featured in Marvel's Spider-Man 2, coming together to form a total of 10 major suits. And while it hasn't been officially confirmed by anyone over at Insomniac, Marvel, or PlayStation just yet that the black suit will be incorporated within Marvel's Spider-Man 2, we already see that Venom is in full force in the initial teaser trailer, so hopefully that does mean we will end up seeing the black suit at some point during the game's story, either latching on to Peter or maybe even Miles Morales. But for the case of this video, we are directly talking about the core black suits that we usually see Peter wear from comics, movies, and other forms of Spidey media. And if by some miracle that at least one of these suits ends up appearing within the game by the time it releases in 2023, that is just going to be a dream come true. So to begin with, the number 5 pick that I personally chose for my own list is actually the black suit that we do see in the Amazing Spider-Man issue 800, or more specifically, as some fans like to call it, the 2018 black suit. Now, this suit that does come from the comics did originate during a point where Spider-Man was at his lowest point in his life, where he did in fact lose his fellow hero agent Anti-Venom, also known as Flash Thompson, and also was trying to go up against his main enemy of Norman Osborn, who just then bonded with the Carnage symbiote in order to become the Red Goblin. And based on this costume's visual aesthetic alone, especially if you do focus directly on the mask's lenses, which do seem to pop right off of the mask itself, it certainly has one of the most unique looks in comparison to the others that are featured on this list. Now, while this may seem like a more modernized version of the classic black suit, I do like the inclusion of the web pits as well as the white legs of the giant spider completely encompassing Spider-Man's shoulders. But knowing some of the other crazy suits that we've already seen Insomniac fully incorporate within Marvel's Spider-Man, like that of the Mangaverse suit as well as the Arachnid Rider suit, I definitely think that they would be fully capable of completely translating this very intriguing black suit design into a fully rendered 3D model. But moving on to pick number 4, I definitely think that this specific suit is a lot more streamlined in comparison to what the previous choice was. And in this case, we're actually looking at a suit that technically never fully appeared within a Spider-Man comic directly, but instead was only showcased once as a variant cover of the Symbiote Spider-Man storyline, which, as you can see, was designed beautifully by Alexander Lozano. In fact, Insomniac aren't afraid to actually use direct variant cover suits for Spider-Man's comic history as complete costumes to be featured in their own standalone games. For example, we did see the variant cover for the 2020 Miles Morales suit as a complete costume featured in his own game. So who's to say Insomniac won't do the exact same thing when it does come to Peter Parker and his plethora of symbiote costumes. And based on the look of this suit alone, I thoroughly love how streamlined it is and how it almost provides a type of metallic sheen in comparison to the other standard black suit cloth looks. However, the same viewpoint doesn't apply when we are referring to the number 3 pick on my list. And trust me, no, I'm not joking when I'm about to say this, is that my number 3 pick is actually the black suit from the Disney XD Marvel Spider-Man show.
No, please. Please don't say that.
Believe you me when I say that Marvel's Spider-Man on Disney XD is my least favorite Spider-Man cartoon of all time. And trust me, I mean it. But again, we're not judging Spider-Man based off of his writing in this video, but instead simply on how he looks. And I have to admit, the way the artist designed the black suit within this show does look fairly interesting. I really love how large the white spider symbol is on the chest of this suit that does go onto his shoulders and sides, and on the back, he's actually sporting the classic classic Spider-Man symbol that just so happens to have a symbiote overlay. And the little extra touches of the white web shooter wristbands and the white padding on his feet does look pretty darn cool. We've already seen Insomniac completely add in animated costumes for Miles Morales with that of the Into the Spider-Verse suit, as well as the animated series suit that he does have in the Ultimate Spider-Man show. So if Insomniac are planning to include another cartoon suit this time around, I definitely could see them using this one as a potential reference. Now regarding my penultimate pick on my list is actually one that you may or may not be able to classify as a black suit depending on how you look at it. And in fact, I wouldn't necessarily even call this a suit, but instead a skin that would completely change how Peter looks while swinging around the city. And based on the narrative events that we did see featured within Spider-Man PS4 pertaining to the downfall of Otto Octavius and potentially setting up a superior Spider-Man storyline, I think it would be straight up badass and a little bit scary if we were to see a superior Venom skin within Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Now this would pretty much be the equivalent of the Spider-Carnage suit that we have seen in other Spider-Man games in the past, like that of Spider-Man 2000, as well as the Amazing Spider-Man 2. But given the fact that Venom does seem to be the forefront of Marvel's Spider-Man 2 in terms of its villains instead of Carnage, I do think including a superior Venom suit, one that you might be able to unlock after you defeat Venom, would just be a really cool touch that Insomniac could include within this game. Unless it turns out that Insomniac are fully planning to go down the route of Superior Spider-Man and directly include Superior Venom as a main villain to fight against in Marvel's Spider-Man 3, that will remain to be seen. But including a type of monstrous black suit within Marvel's Spider-Man 2 would just be cool nonetheless. And finally, to wrap up this top 5 list with a bang, my number 1 black suit is none other than
I guess that's my cue.
Need I say more? Besides likely seeing the advanced suit receive its own symbiote variant during some point of the game's story, which if you don't know, the advanced suit is my personal favorite Spider-Man suit of all time, the Ultimate Comics version of the black suit is hands down my all-time favorite black suit Spider-Man costume ever made. The sheer simplicity of this suit with the massive white eyes and the huge white spider logo completely enveloping the entire chest and back area of Spider-Man's look is just straight up badass. I also love how this is technically the purple suit instead of the black suit, given the really cool purple symbiote highlights that are speckled throughout this costume. And let me tell you that unlocking this suit as a 100% completion item within Ultimate Spider-Man was a pain in the ass. And by God, Insomniac, if we have to suffer that same amount of pain within Marvel's Spider-Man 2, if this ends up being an unlockable suit, I am going to straight up cry. And while I'm usually not too picky when it does come to alternate suits, given the fact that I usually always wear the advanced suit when I'm playing as Peter Parker, I am stating right here and right now that if the Ultimate Black suit is featured in Marvel's Spider-Man 2, it needs to be cel-shaded. And simply imagining this suit being a completely cel-shaded costume while running exclusively on the PlayStation 5 hardware would easily make me feel like a kid again in 2005 playing Ultimate Spider-Man. But remember, even though those are my personal picks for the top 5 black suits I personally want to see in Marvel's Spider-Man 2, we still have the sensational Ronny Pugs to provide his own list about which suits he would like to see be featured in the game.
I'm the other guy. What?
With Insomniac Spider-Man games, players have had numerous suit options to choose from between both Miles Morales and Peter Parker. With the first game including the most suits of any Spider-Man game, the obvious thing missing was the black suit, Spider-Man's second most iconic look. With the black suit and the symbiote being saved for the upcoming game, I wanted to share 5 symbiote-related costumes I would like to see for Peter Parker, in order with the list descending 5 through 1 into my most wanted suit. At number 5, I'm starting out with the suit that has only appeared in one Spider-Man game, Poison. Poison is a Spider-Man from another timeline where the Venom symbiote leaves Matt Gargan and senses Peter's struggles, and although Peter tries to reject the symbiote, he was unable to, and Poison is the result of that. This is similar to the superior Venom design, as it's one of the more monstrous symbiote costumes, and it's only appeared in Edge of Time, so I would like to see it reappear in a game dealing with symbiotes. One of the more creepier Spider-Man costumes, a less creepy version, has appeared in the comics and the Unlimited mobile game, which is a white version that resembles the Future Foundation suit, so either could work in the game, and I personally would like to see the Dark darker version due to how similar the white version is to other suits, although both could work. Number 4 brings us back to the earliest days of Spider-Man comics, the original black suit. This isn't much different from what the final design would be, but it is an interesting bit of Spider-Man trivia, as the original design for the suit was red and black, but the colors blended too much. The Uptown Pride suit in Miles Morales showed how much simply changing a color could make a big difference in a suit, and this would be an incredible look in the game, and I'd imagine the red could be more vibrant in order to separate itself from the dark suit if it returns. You could even include the vintage comic suit filter on this costume if wanted, but personally I would like to see this design replicated in the same art style as textures in Spider-Man 2. I don't believe this costume has been featured in any Spider-Man game, and it would be nice to see the original symbiote design make its debut among other symbiote designs. The third costume on this list is a design I'm hoping isn't an original look for another developer, but one that could be reused in this game, the Amazing Spider-Man black suit. This is one of the best costumes to ever appear in a Spider-Man game, and it was featured as the 100% reward for the Amazing Spider-Man game. The first Amazing Spider-Man suit is already a very interesting design, with it featuring unique patterns and being a new take on the classic suit, but making it all black is such a clean look. Although the first Amazing Spider-Man game looked decent, there were a lot of costumes from that game that looked terrible compared to Insomniac's game, but the black suit in this game did look amazing, and I can't imagine how it would look on the PS5. My only fear with this costume not being in the game is that Beanox could own the original look for it, since this is technically an original suit by them, even though it's just a palette swap, but hopefully that isn't the case and we can see this costume return in Spider-Man 2. And speaking of palette swaps, number 2 is an obvious one, a fan favorite, the Spider-Man 3 suit. This is one of the few movie costumes missing from Spider-Man PS4, and with how highly requested the Raimi suit was in the previous game, I don't see how this costume doesn't make the upcoming game. This is an iconic design that revolutionized symbiote costumes for future Spider-Man properties, just like with the Amazing Spider-Man suit, with it being a unique look that simply palette swapped the colors on the classic suit with the modified spider logo. I've recently made a video discussing this suit in Marvel's Spider-Man 2, and I would personally like to see it as the 100% reward, and if I were Insomniac, I wouldn't say anything about this costume or even hint at it prior to the game's release, and maybe they could include this as a secret costume to unlock, like they did with the ESU suit, since this is likely going to be a lot of players' number 1, and imagine thinking this isn't in the game at launch, only to be unlocked as a secret. And finally, the symbiote design I'm hoping to see most in Spider-Man 2, the black suit from Spider-Man the Animated Series. In my opinion, the alien costume episodes from this series are the best adaptation of the symbiote storyline across Spider-Man media, only rivaled by the Ultimate Spider-Man comics run and video game. Spider-Man Miles Morales showed us that cartoon costumes can make these games with the inclusion of the Ultimate Spider-Man TV show suit in that game, and it looked like it was ripped straight out of the show. And including the symbiote design in the game would be very interesting, considering the animation style the suit could have and the blue highlights on the costume, separating itself from other classic symbiote variants that we could expect. If this costume is to be included in the game, then I would also love to see the classic red and blue suit from that show, since it would be strange to only add one variant, and given how good of a story the alien costume episodes are from this show, I would love to see this suit in the game since it's such an iconic look for the character. So there you have it, the 5 symbiote costumes I would like to see most in Marvel's Spider-Man 2. I hope you enjoyed my choices, and I would like to thank Evan for having me on his channel to discuss this topic with him. We've known each other for a long time, and I'm thankful we could finally make a video together.
Anytime, Ronnie, anytime. But with all that said, everyone, that's the video that Ronnie and I both have for you today, and please let us know all your thoughts in the comments section down below. Which black suit do you desperately want to see be featured within Marvel's Spider-Man 2, and based on the suits that both Ronnie and I provided, which one is your personal favorite? So fingers crossed that at least one of these spectacular suits ends up being in the game. But until next time, true believers, thank you all so much for watching. Stay spectacular, Spidey fans. Leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you did enjoy, and for more Marvel Spider-Man 2 videos like this, be sure to check out and support Ronny Pugs. And without further ado, peace out.